something you love about your tour, whether it's a favorite site, a hidden gem, or a fun fact. Then you tag at NYC Tourism and at Guides of New York City. Use the hashtags, hashtag NTTW25 and hashtag What's Good New York City. So this is really interesting. Last year, the only guide who participated in their social media splash was member Christine Lazara. And her Instagram story earned, get this, 2,240 impressions from NYCTC's audience. And she's the only one of GANYC actually who posted. All right, next on the agenda, let's talk about the WFTGA, World Federation Tour Guides Association. They have a convention next year in Japan. I'm sure you've all heard about it. Registration will be opening this month for the convention in Japan, which is called Sustainable Tourism for the Future. It is expected to open sometime this month. As soon as we receive the information, we will blast it out to the members. The main convention will be held February 9th to the 13th. However, with that, there's also a pre-convention tour, which is February 5th to the 8th, and then a post-convention tour, which is February 13th through the 17th. Information is also available by visiting the site. That link will be available, or just go to wftga.org. Click on the activities menu bar and click on conventions. On this page, there is a place to subscribe to the convention newsletter. I just did that, and it's actually very informative, which is the best way for you to get information on the registration. Almost done. Multilingual Guides Committees. Okay. Well, I was going to say, please welcome Steve Klopper as our new chair of the Multilingual Guides Committee. Steve will deliver his first report later in the meeting. All right, well, maybe he's stuck on the one train too. But I wanted to thank Steve for stepping up, and we look forward to seeing how you shape this important committee. If you are interested in volunteering on this committee, please reach out to Steve at multilingualguides@GANYC.org. Okay. Condolences to member Pat Ron Mizuka. The GANYC family wants to extend our condolences to our longtime member Pat Ron Mizuka, whose husband Hank has passed away this past week. Okay. Congratulations to member Monia Bonaldo for being honored by the City Guide as its 2025 Woman in Tourism Award winner in the tour guide category. Yay! Awesome. She and all the winners will be honored at the luncheon on City Winery on May 20th at 12 p.m. I'll see you there. More information on the event, including how to attend or purchase an ad, is available. And last but not least, there's not a last but not least, hold on. Upcoming NFTGA education programs. The National Federation of Tourist Guide Associations, NFTGA, has been active with several online programs. Here is information on 2 upcoming programs. All events will be recorded and can be viewed for 30 days after the live stream. May 14th, Fred Ferguson, President and CEO of the American Bus Association, ABA, will discuss trends in the world of motor coaches. To register or find out more information, there's a link. June 14th, Corey Amron, Professor of History at Ensign College and author of The Tourism Professional, will discuss trends in the global guiding industry. For more information or register, there's going to be a link for that too. Okay, Times Square video. Who was there last night? I was. You were. Seeing the faces. That was fun. Okay, so thank you to everyone who did come out to Times Square yesterday to see GANYC featured on the Visit Times Square billboard. About 30 members came out as we wished New York City a happy 400th anniversary from GANYC, with the NYC 400 logo in the background on our screen. So, Gary, did anybody post anything about that today?
Yeah.
No one heard of it. Yes, people did, yes.
Yes,
I got my pin.
Yeah, people post.
I'm wearing my pin. Thanks to GANYC member Megan Murad for arranging this great opportunity. She will post a reel about this in the coming days. Jeremy Wilcox and others have already posted some photos to the GANYC members' Facebook page. Thank you. All right, and this is last. June membership meeting is Thursday, June 5th. That's Thursday, not Wednesday. Rather than the usual Wednesday, the Brooklyn Heights branch of, it's going to be Okay, all right, so
I'm quick, but I'm next.
we're done then.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi again. I know enough of you in the room to know that most of you don't need to hear this, but just in case anybody does, mid-year enrollment for personal liability insurance is now open. As a reminder to everybody, we offer personal liability insurance through a group policy for anyone who chooses to use it. That is done through our partnership with the NFTGA, and while they are not doing a prorated, like 6-month period for us this year because of the company we're now working with to provide our insurance, they are willing to backdate everybody's enrollment to the 1st of January. So if you blanked on it at the beginning of the year to get your insurance enrollment in, or if you're a new member and you're excited to jump on board with this, this is available for the entire month of May. Enrollment is going to be due at the end of the day on May 31st. Thank you. I don't know how many days there are in May. But for anyone who has any questions about this, please email finance@GANYC.org. There's also a whole thing on the GANYC.org website within the member portal where you can read through the terms of insurance and all of that good stuff. Does anyone have any questions right now? Great. I'm gonna get out of your way.
Okay, so, thank you, Sarah. I actually signed up and it was so easy. It took me like 2 seconds. Okay, Susan Birdbaum is going to announce our guest speaker. Thank you, Susan.
Hi. Today we're really happy to say that Roger McCormack, who's the director, the director of the Bronx County Historical Society, is a writer, a farmer, a lecturer, and tour leader. He's a graduate of Merrimack College and has a master's degree in American history from Monmouth University, where his thesis focused on the antebellum United States and the Civil War. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? She's a lot shorter than I am. What about now? What about now?
We can hear you.
But we're next to Yeah, once it's not sticking.
There you go. That's why I voted for you, Catherine. Look at you go.
Is that better? How is that?
That's good.
Welcome everyone. So I didn't realize there were so many groups that tour guides could join. I thought like Groucho Marx, unfortunately, wouldn't want to belong to any club that would have someone like me as a member. Can you hear me?
No, you have to pull it in.
Can you hear me now?
No, gotta be a lot closer.
I'll just have to.
Make love to the microphone.
I'll have to start screaming. Anyway, it's always good to be at Wave Hill. It makes New Jersey look good. It's a very great accomplishment. And this particular talk I find very topical. This last month was the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Lexington and Concord, that shot heard around the world, the star of the American Revolution, and Paul Revere's ride. Of course, Paul Revere got all the credit for the ride. I forget the other two riders who deserve to be remembered just as much as Paul Revere. But I've lured you here a little bit under false pretenses. The Bronx, at the time of the Revolution, does not really exist. The Bronx, as we know it, is an entity of the later 19th century. It was then part of Westchester County. And this map you see here shows it during the Revolution, a part of southern Westchester. It was divided up into that time large estates. You had the Van Cortlandt family, where Van Cortlandt Park is today. Where we are was the Phillips family, and they were notorious Tories. They owned all the way up to about the Croton River, so huge estates. Morrisania was the family province of the Morris family. That's in the South Bronx today. Where Bronx Park is, the zoo, and the Botanical Garden was the province of the Delancey family, who were also great Tories during the Revolution. And the Bronx at that time was largely, almost entirely agricultural, supplying produce from New York City for Westchester, very sparsely populated, only a few hundred people live there. And the American Revolution is about to explode into this very pastoral, very kind of idyllic society. And Westchester had a bad reputation then among the New Englanders, the very staunch revolutionaries. It was known as the hotbed of inimicals. It was very wealthy then, as it is today, and they were known for not wanting to rock the boat, and being very willing to pay large amounts of taxes, as they are to this day. So, why would the revolution matter here? We're very close at the time. It was called the King's Bridge. It was the only mainland crossing between Manhattan and the Bronx. So whoever controlled the approach to that essentially controlled the approach to New York City. And a series of forts, which you can see on this map along the Harlem River, were built to protect the approach to the King's Bridge. And a series of smaller forts were built along Gun Hill Road to protect the approach to these more significant forts. Washington at this time is in his headquarters in Harlem Heights, which of course now is called Washington Heights. He had just lost, this is September of 1776, he had just lost the Battle of Brooklyn in August of that year, or the Battle of Long Island, and there's a legend that it was a foggy night, of course, and they went across the East River, but there's a legend that the brothers Howe, General Howe, William Howe, and his brother Richard, were in Brooklyn Heights getting drunk, partying, and that's why they didn't see the Continental Army slip away. But perhaps a fanciful story. Also in this, you see there's only a few small villages in the Bronx at that time. West Farms, Fordham, and Spike and Jive, where we are now. I hope I don't trip, it's really heavy machinery. Or pull my back out. So this is Gouverneur Morris, the so-called penman of the Constitution. He wrote the Constitution, the preamble of the Constitution, to form a more perfect union. He was a Bronx boy in Morrisania. He's buried there today in St. Anne's Church on 149th Street and St. Anne's Avenue. He was very, very witty, unfortunately a forgotten founding father today. The peg leg you see there it was reputed that he was escaping from a husband at one of his innumerable conquests, and his leg caught in the wheel of a carriage as he was trying to escape, and it destroyed his leg. Morris is very famous, as I said, for writing the preamble to the Constitution. He was also a very famous Federalist in favor of a strong central government, the Hamiltonian interests as opposed to the Jeffersonian look to rural America as the saviors of the country. So this is Richard Brookhiser about Gouverneur Morris. At neither the state nor the National Convention, nor at any time in his career, was Morris a Democrat. His first political letter, written when he was 22, described a turbulent New York City meeting in 1774 to discuss British iniquities. Young Morris, observing the scene from a balcony, wrote this haughty description: "The mob begin to think and reason. Poor reptiles, it is with them a vernal morning. They are struggling to cast off their winter's slough. They bask in the sunshine, and ere noon they will bite. He never changed these views." End quote. Thankfully, though, there is a more savory side of him. He's one of the few delegates to the Constitutional Convention who was unambiguous opponent of slavery. So the Morris family had owned slaves for generations, and Morris unsuccessfully moved the New York Constitution condemned slavery, and he gave a blazing anti-slavery speech at the Constitutional Convention, attacking his home state, among others. Quote, "Travel through the whole continent, and you behold the prospect continually varying with the appearance and disappearance of slavery. The moment you leave the eastern states, New England, and enter New York, the effects of the institution become visible. Passing through the Jerseys and entering Pennsylvania, which forbade slavery, every criterion of superior improvement witnesses the change. Proceed southwardly, and every step you take through this great region of slaves presents a desert increasing with the increasing proportion of these wretched people." Unfortunately, he lost that debate at the Constitutional Convention, but he is one of the most prominent statesman from the Bronx of this era. And the Revolutionary War devised not just individual families, but also within families. His mother, Sarah Morris, was a Tory, and he was one of the few founding fathers that came from the pre-war aristocracy. And the only other one really is Aaron Burr, who also is kind of forgotten today, and people only remember the bad things about him. So this is Lewis Morris. He was another member of the Morris family, signer of the Declaration of Independence, and one of the delegates to the Constitutional Convention of the Continental Congress. He decreed that the forts be built to protect the approach to the Harlem River in 1776. And he is a half-brother of Gouverneur, and he is also buried in St. Anne's Church in the Bronx. So this is the famous Kingsbridge. So at the time, in the Revolutionary War era, it was the oldest toll bridge in the United States. It was built in 1693 by the Phillips family. The Phillips family were notorious during the war for being Tories, and it was called the Kingsbridge because Frederick Phillips was given a charter directly from the Crown to build a bridge. And it stands until 1914. If any of you are interested in archaeology, when they fill in Spikendale Creek, and this is about where Marble Hill Avenue is today by Broadway, if any of you are familiar with the area. I'm guessing not though, because of all this talk of the one train. But it's right by Broadway and Marble Hill Avenue, and it looks quite not really imposing. So it's still there if you're interested in archaeology. And this bridge is the colonists had to pay a toll on every cow, everything they brought across. It caused a lot of resentment. It was really the George Washington Bridge of its time. And colonists, Benjamin Palmer and Jacob Dyckman, for whom Dyckman Street gets its name, they devised and built the Farmers Free Bridge just below it, roughly where the University Heights Bridge is today, University Heights and Fordham. And the farmers didn't have to pay a toll on that bridge. And all the bridges become free after the Revolution. This shows it in the 1890s. And this is just before it's filled in. See, they're working there and filling the creek. So this is a map. So the British strategy in 1776, Washington, as I said, was in Harlem Heights. Admiral Howe and his brother, the General William Howe, wanted to essentially envelop his army. The plan was to march west across the Bronx, capture the approaches to the Kingsbridge, and track Washington in Harlem Heights. At the same time, Howe had troops coming up from the south, also to capture Washington's army. That was the best case scenario of the battle plans. The added benefit was they would also cut, if they went west through the Bronx, they would cut off Washington's supply lines and communications lines with New England, which were very significant for the Continental Army at that point. So the British land first at Throgs Neck on October 12, 1776. It's a very marshy area, and Washington stationed Colonel Edward Hand and his Pennsylvania riflemen, and they ripped up these planks over this marsh and fired on the British, and the British retreat. Howe decides to land again, this time at Pell's Point, in what is now Pelham Bay Park. This is on October 18th, 1776. Washington stationed there, someone who became more famous later in the war, John Blow, who was the head of the Marblehead Mariners from Massachusetts, one of the first racially integrated units in the Continental Army. He saw what looked like almost the entire British fleet. And remember, at that time, the British Navy was the rival of the world, which Napoleon never liked, the so-called nation of shopkeepers. They could fight on the sea but not on land, and all these other various derogatory expressions, which persist. I'm reading now, it's coming up on the anniversary of Victory in Europe Day, American and British
Can you
generals.
speak closer to the microphone, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That British and American generals hated one another. so these things persist. So, John Glover sees 4,000 British troops depart. He has 750 troops. He positions them on either side of what was then called Split Rock Road, which is an old New England-looking road with rock walls on either side. One battalion of the troops would hide behind the rock walls, shoot, and then retreat. Then the other side of the road would do it. Battalions would fire and then retreat. Howe was very diffident. He was the George McClellan of his time. He was called Granny Howe for being very slow and not really a fighting general. So Howe thinks that he's greatly outnumbered, and it allows the Continental Army to retreat and then to fight the Battle of White Plains in October 28th. They lose there. It allows them to escape into New Jersey and then into Pennsylvania and continue fighting the war. There. And I call it the Dunkirk of the American Revolution. It's like Dunkirk in the Second World War. It allows, and similarly to the Battle of Brooklyn, the Battle of Long Island, it allows the Continental Army to continue fighting the war. That shows another map of Phelps Point. You can see the landing there. This shows Pelham Bay Park today. It would be about in the middle of the park where they fight. It marched for quite a while. And today this is the largest park in New York City, so 3,000 acres. It comes out of that great City Beautiful movement of the 19th century. So this is a map. This shows what was called the neutral ground during the American Revolution. So the Americans were dug in at Peekskill, extending downwards to Long Island Sound. The British occupied New York City and most of what we now call the South Bronx, Morrisania, Fordham, West Farms. The area in between, from about Yonkers to Fordham, was essentially no man's land. It was called the neutral ground. There was a lot of guerrilla fighting, marauding. There was a group called Cowboys, British loyal guerrillas that would steal cattle, burn fields, and essentially make life very difficult for farmers. So if you were an ordinary person at this time, it becomes very difficult to live in this area. And if you see, the black line is the British line, and the red line is the American line there. And the area is not just burned over, but there's quite a bit of skirmishes fought there over the course of the war, which I'll talk about in a little bit. It's like Pilates going back and forth here. I don't have to go to the gym. So this is Colonel John Glover, who was responsible for victory at the Battle of Fells Point. As I said, he was very famous as being the head of the Marblehead Mariners. They led the successful amphibious retreat across the East River during the Battle of Brooklyn, and later in the Battle of Trenton, the crossing of the Delaware River, and in Washington, a very famous painting by Emmanuel Duluth of Washington crossing the Delaware to rout the Hessians on Christmas morning. And this is in Boston, Commonwealth Avenue. This is the Admiral Pound. This is Glover's Rock. So this is said to be one of the rocks that they hid behind during the Battle of Fells Point. In point of fact, it's completely erroneous. The battle was a few more miles to the north. But the rock, nevertheless, is there today. It was a famous dedication in the 1960s of the Bronx Historical Society. And it's right before you come to Orchard Beach, if you're going here. So as I said, the Bronx in the 18th century was divided into these three villages: Spuyten Duyvil, Fordham, and West Farms. Fordham, Spuyten Duyvil, West Farms, and Westchester, town of Westchester, what is today Westchester Square. So this was where Howe was stationed after the Continental Army retreats out of the Bronx. He was stationed in the Ferris house. The Ferrises were a prominent Bronx family, merchants, farmers, fairly wealthy. James and Charity Ferris were the couple, and Charity Ferris and James were sympathetic to the revolution. And Charity Ferris had one of her slaves wait on General Howe, and General Howe thought he could talk freely in front of the slave, and he did, and the slave brought the messages back to Charity Ferris, who then sent them to Washington. Oh, and I should say that all of the Bronx then, that was big states, and even the smaller farmers, used slave labor. Slavery in New York State was abolished in 1799 when it's graduated, so the final slaves were freed in 1826. And the Morris family in particular, the patriarch, had fought in the English Civil War and ended up in Barbados. And they were very, very large slave owners, despite the sympathies of some of the members of the family. And this shows, unfortunately, has since been demolished. Had so many great historic houses in the Bronx. This was in Westchester Square. So this is a modern map of the neighborhood of Norwood or Bainbridge, and this is the so-called neutral ground. It would have been ravaged at the time during the Revolution. This is the Valentine Variant House. This is still a museum today. It's very interesting. It's one of, usually the houses that survive from that period are the wealthy. And this house is essentially the house of an ordinary man. So Isaac Valentine was a blacksmith and a farmer. He builds the house in 1758. And he is still there during the Revolution. He's essentially neutral. He doesn't take a side, but he does serve in a patriot militia. And he stays there while it's occupied, tries to make a go of it. And at various times during the war, it's occupied by the Hessians, the British, and near the end of the war by Rochambeau, who refer to it as a wretched farmhouse. So once you've spent at Versailles, everything is second best after that. And that, at the time, it was a 300-acre farm, and all the stone you see there in the house was taken from the grounds of the farm. Natural field stone. Hard to believe today it was farmland, and as was a lot of this area. And this shows it in the 1870s. It was moved across the street, as many historic houses are, as he was neutral during the war. He loses the house as a result of the revolution, sells it to, there's a post-war economic depression. There was land on the Hessian fly, that ravaged the wheat crop, but in reality had no connection to Hesse, which was the German principality where the mercenaries were from. This shows it being moved, 48-wheel dolly. I feel like we're in the conclave. If the bird leaves, that's a sign of it. So anyway, it took a 48-wheel dolly to move the house, which is impressive today because they can't really even fill potholes anymore. But nevertheless, it could have easily gone the other way and fallen over. But thankfully, it was a success. So this is Robert Rogers. He was very famous during the 7 Years' War for his backwoods marauding. His rules for ranging are still used in the U.S. Army Rangers today in their handbook. He was a bit of a legend in his own mind. By the Revolution, he was drinking quite heavily and would die not too long after from alcoholism. But he was really brutal in the area of the neutral ground during the war. And there's a myth created by James Fenimore Cooper, who wrote The Last of the Mohicans. He had married into the Delancey family, and James Delancey was the last royal sheriff of Westchester, who was responsible for a lot of depredations, mutilations of patriot troops and civilians as well. And he creates a legend that some of the patriot militias and guerrilla fighters did similar things, and they were called the Skinners. There's evidence that they did similar things, but that they were their own kind of entity. Isn't really true. And he was famous for wearing green instead of the traditional red of the British Army. And he occupies the stone house in 1777. This is William Heath. So in this area in the neutral ground, in 1777, Washington is feeling the heat in New Jersey, and he wants kind of a diversion, a feint to take the heat off him. So he orders William Heath to attack Fort Independence, which was one of the forts protecting the approach to the Kingsbridge. Heath was the commander of the Continental Army in Westchester. He attacks, they're briefly successful, but they have to beat a retreat after a very heavy rainstorm, ruins their gunpowder. And while the Continental Army is retreating, they fire on the British with a cannon from the southwest corner of what is now Woodlawn Cemetery, and it's called Gun Hill Road now. But there's also old maps and deeds from the 1740s where the area was called Gun Hill. So your guess is as good as mine, where they got that shaped like a gun. If you're looking from above, I'm not certain. And it was unsuccessful. And the area, as I'll talk more, wouldn't really see any significant action until near the end of the war. So this is modern day Gun Hill Road. This is where they were retreating during the siege. Below that is the Bronx River, the only freshwater river in New York City, and the Bronx Parkway is right on top of it. So at the end of the war, in 1781, Washington is dead set on invading New York City, ending the war there. In 1781, the French have come into the war, so the French fleet has landed in New York. Washington, which of course was very decisive, and the debt the French incurred from helping the American Revolution, it's arguably probably caused their own revolution as well, from the debt the French had gotten into. So Washington is in the Van Cortlandt House, a very old, beautiful mansion, very close to here, the oldest house in the Bronx, built in 1748. He's with Rochambeau. Rochambeau thinks his plan is folly. He wants to to trap the British Army in Yorktown and Virginia and end the war there. Before they do this, Washington, of course, has supreme command, and they undertake what was called the Grand Reconnaissance. The British, by this point, had abandoned the forts leading to the Kingsbridge, but were well established in New York City. So Washington and Rochambeau marched down through the Bronx with a guide called Andrew Corso, who was a farm boy from Fordham, and showed them where the British positions were across the Harlem River. And at one point they're fired on. Andrew Corso describes in his diary fleeing and running behind a rock, and he gets up, and Washington and Rochambeau are calmly sitting on their horses, looking at the British positions. But Washington sometimes had a little bit too much braggadocio. They were familiar with it as a young officer during the 70 Years' War. He's with a Native American called Half-King Clemens, which hatchet into the head of the Frenchmen negotiating with Washington's hands and his brains, and that's the so-called start of the 7 Years' War. And Washington described the fracas afterwards as he could hear the bullets charmingly whizzing past him. A military man for sure. And this house had a lot of strategic significance. It was right next to the Broadway, the Albany Post Road, and the Boston Post Road, which at that time, as I said, were the only major highways going to Albany and going to New England. So they do the Grand Reconnaissance. It's mostly bears out Rochambeau's opinion that they should trap the British in Yorktown, which they do. but Washington keeps fires burning in what is now Van Cortlandt Park to make them think that an invasion, that the invasion of the British New York City was imminent. And here is Rochambeau, not as famous as Lafayette, of course, last year was the 100th anniversary of his Lafayette's return to the United States in 1824. The two republics, hand in hand. And I just wanted to read about the neutral ground. This is James Thatcher, who was a surgeon from Massachusetts during the American Revolution, an army surgeon, and he served in Hudson Valley. And he says, quote, "The country which we live and traverse, about 50 miles in extent, is called neutral ground. But the miserable inhabitants who remain are not much favored with the privileges which their neutrality ought to secure to them. They are continually exposed to the ravages and insults of infamous bandits composed of royal refugees and Tories. The country is rich and fertile, and the farms appear to have been advantageously cultivated, but now has the marks of a country in ruins." Thank you for your attention. Do you have questions for me? And how did I do on time? I was worried.
So if anybody has any questions, just please stand up and state your name. David?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dave. Thanks for speaking for us. You had said that the Valentine House is the second oldest house in the Bronx, please second only to what?
The McCormack House, which is 1748, just a 10-year. And they're the same architectural style, the Georgian style, which is very famous in the colonial era. Named for the kings. Yes.
Hi, AJ here. You said New Englanders didn't like Westchester because they were what exactly?
Westchester was called hotbed of inimicals.
What does that mean?
They were inimical, that they were against the cause.
Ah.
Because they didn't want to see the, you know all the New Englanders, very puritanical, even to this day, very self-righteous. But New York has the old Dutch heritage of pragmatism, money's coming in, it's fine. Yes.
I'm John, thanks for speaking. Is the Valentine Variant House, if I got that right, is that open as a museum?
Yes, it is.
I was there a while back, kind of looks limited, so.
Saturday 10 to 4 and Sunday 1 to 5. Yes.
And we have a question. What happened to the States? Obviously, Delancey had to flee to
Oh, yeah.
England.
Good
What
question.
about Phillips and others? What happened to the Bronx right after?
I should have said that, I'm sorry. So they were partitioned off and given to smaller farmers. In a way, it was a.
Veterans? No.
Usually veterans, but also just ordinary people if the veterans have been filled. And it kind of ends that large feudal style, the big landowners in the Northeast. You still have some really big farms, but after that, it's much more democratic, and it's the bastion of those really old estates would be the Old South.
So they did confiscate, like
Yes,
they did
they
with
did confiscate.
Yeah.
And which they were supposed to during Reconstruction, the so-called 40 acres of removal. But the issue there, I think, was the racism of that period. And Thomas Paine's house, which was a farm in New Rochelle, that was given him as for services rendered during the Revolution.
No.
Yeah, in the back, sorry.
Hi, Gary. Sorry, I'm recording this for GANYC, so I just make sure I didn't knock this over. You had said something about the Rangers, the Army Rangers. I thought it was Thomas Knowlton, who was captain from, I believe, Massachusetts.
I think
That his Rangers were the ones that got stuck in a barn at 106th Street.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. The only thing I know is that Robert Rogers, some of his principles are still used today for the U.S. Army Rangers. But I'm sure there's multiple influences.
All right. Add use.
Yeah, just one other quick question. Are all the references to Morris in the Bronx from Gouverneur Morris, like Morrisania, was it Morris Park?
Yes. And
Fort Morris, they're all.
Yes, and also they were very prominent in New Jersey as well. Governor of New Jersey, Morristown, another one of, the last time I gave this talk was in Morristown, North New Jersey, Revolutionary War Roundtable. Very tough crowd, very detailed. This is much nicer questions today.
Same Morris as the Morris Jumel Mansion?
Yes, the Morris Jumel Mansion, I should have said, was his headquarters when he was in Harlem Heights. And Eliza Jumel, she was the richest woman in North America at the time, in the 19th century. One-time prostitute. She married Aaron Burr, and Aaron Burr was after her money, and they divorced. And Aaron Burr lived to be very old, only the good die young. Very old for that time. I think he was going to his 80s, and he was a bit of a scoundrel. But she was that's where the Jumels. She married Stephen Jumel, who was a paper merchant. He died. She lived in the house.
Anybody else with questions? Thank you, Bob.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
So much heavy machines here. And the worst is when you bring the computer, you don't even know
Well, this is going to be a very short meeting tonight. We've just got the committee reports left. So why don't we just take a minute, we can chat, and let Roger get his equipment. Anybody else have any other questions or thoughts? New business? Emma, you have something
And
to
also,
say?
I'm checking, I've got the app open so I can check people in. If you registered, I can check you in.
You want me to give you the list? A list.
Oh, she's got a list too? Okay.
Yeah. You want me to give you the
You can
list?
give me the list, that'd be great, because
Okay.
I can do it for then Jeremy and.
Thank you, Emma.
Yeah, and then, but I
Did you have something you wanted to announce?
So, anybody want to work with me at the observatory? Hiring people?
What is
At the
that?
Bungalow Observatory, up on top, you get to talk about the city from inside, 1,254 feet up there. Anyway, if you're interested, the observatory is hiring. We'd love to have a multilingual guide, anyone who speaks,
cool.
Spanish especially.
Yep.
Part-time position. And so if you're interested, I've got little flyers here, I will put them here. And you can come up and see it, then it's got information about it, who to email, Carrie Ann, and then, $10 off on my ticket if you want to come up. So feel free to come up and pick one of these up. If you have questions about the observatory, you can speak to me, about we need to expand our team, they want us to do more tours, and for us.
Thanks, Emma. All right, so we really only have the committee reports left. And Ann McDermott is not here this evening. Is someone speaking for her? She couldn't make it.
I have a report if no one else is able to.
Why don't you come on up, Sarah?
Alright. Alright, y'all, you stop with me again for a minute or two.
Sarah, you seem like it's a bad thing.
Hey Jay, have I ever told you how much I love you? Alright, so this report is on behalf of Ann McDermott, who was caught up in the one train fracas. And the report is as follows, and I apologize in advance if any of these names were mispronounced. The membership committee is proud to announce several new members since April 1st of 2025, including, and please wave if you're here, Erin Donnelly, Joseph Ellman, Christina Hansen, Lawrence Henderson, James Henry, and Allison Reen? Are you here, Allison? Can you help me with this? But we're very excited to welcome them. There also is an upcoming event with the membership committee. On May 20th, there's going to be a networking meeting at Near's Tavern. There are a few details that need to still be worked out, I's and T's and all that, but look out for an announcement from the membership committee online very, very soon. I hope you'll be there, because I will be, and that's me. Also, the membership committee is happy to say that our April 21st new member orientation meeting was a smashing success with an attendance of about 20 new members. And for those who are looking for news about the mentorship program kickoff on April 28th, it was postponed. More details will be to follow. And finally, thank you to John Hankey for pinch hitting on new member interviews. And if you want to hang out with the membership committee, email Ann. I would say, does anybody have any questions? But I don't have any answers. So if you do have any questions, email membership@GANYC.org.
Sarah. Steve, before you arrived, I did, part of the presidential report was to welcome you and thank you for volunteering to be our chairperson for the multilingual committee. So come on up and give your report. His first.
Thank you, Catherine. So this is my first report. I am the new chairman of the membership committee. I'm sorry, the multilingual guides committee. My intention is kind of to reinvigorate that committee and have it work with the rest of the committees in GANYC. I'm looking forward to boosting membership as well among multilingual guides. I want to read the statement that I wrote. The mission of the Multilingual Guides Committee must be reflective and supportive of GANYC's mission, particularly diversity. Reflecting the city's multicultural fabric, GANYC members offer tours of multiple languages and cover all 5 boroughs, in addition to the missions of membership, licensing, continuing education, advocacy, public events, networking, and professional development. I believe we should all be working together. I believe that there's significant potential for GANYC to engage more multilingual guides, thereby enhancing both the diversity of our membership and the broader community we represent. To that end, I would like to propose the development of an outreach initiative aimed at increasing awareness of GANYC among guides who work in languages other than English. My goal is to foster an inclusive environment that welcomes speakers of all languages, providing a space for dialogue, mutual support, and sharing of insights specific to the multilingual guide experience. I also hope to demonstrate the tangible value of GANYC membership to this community. I'd also like to see GANYC serve as an advocate for reforming the city's tour guide licensing process. Specifically, I would like to make the licensing exam more culturally inclusive and reflective of the multilingual landscape of our city, particularly by incorporating Spanish and other spoken languages into the testing process. I would encourage our existing and new multilingual guides to conduct more fam tours that focus on the cultures, neighborhoods, cuisines, and experience that reflect their unique perspectives. Finally, going forward, I would be working on the following tasks to invigorate the multilingual guide committee. Raise awareness of GANYC's benefits to multilingual guides, define functions of the multilingual guide committee, establish goals for the multilingual guide committee, identify current multilingual members, make a positive impact within GANYC, review and reimagine GANYC's approach to multilingual guides, and develop a plan to attract new multilingual guides. I'd also like to identify current multilingual guides for recommendations for this committee's activities, and I'm looking for a willingness to participate and for ideas for enhancing the multilingual guide committee. And I welcome any contributions from GANYC's executives, committee chairs, and memberships to keep the multilingual guide committee in alignment with our overall objectives. So thank you very much.
Since this is we're reinvigorating this new committee, this older committee to be alive again. Does anybody have any questions about the committee? And does anybody in this room give tours in another language? Yes, excellent.
Oh, I see you now. Okay.
I appreciate the work that you're planning to do, welcome to the club, but unfortunately, the work with the government relations division regarding the test.
Of course.
There's some other issues that they're trying to make it more of a priority.
And that would be Mr. Patrick over there.
Harvey, that's the kind of advice I wanted. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Steve? All right, thank you, Steve. And we're gonna wanna put that on, we should do a. We got it. Okay, perfect. Got it. All right, thank you. Looking forward to seeing what this new committee can do. Gary, New York City 400 Committee, Gary Dennis.
I remain calm. There we go. All right. Hi there. So, genius that I am, my report's in my phone.
and genius that I am, I'm recording this thing for Jeremy. So I'm gonna do this from memory and tell you of our recent accomplishments. You all got at least 2 emails from the NYC 400 committee in the last couple of days, over the last week. One was to request tours. One was to invite you to Cherie Davis's. See, I forgot my notes, but the video project. There you go, video project, which has taken off. We are getting submissions from that. Please do not post them and link them to me on your Instagram, which has happened a few times. Just send it directly. Just read the email. Follow the instructions. All right. And so she'll get to them, and she can put our watermark on them. We also co-hosted with Emma. Was very much responsive. She just walked out. Oh, there she is. The Russell Shorto event out at the Center for Brooklyn History that went off like gangbusters. And of course, yesterday much of us were in Times Square and saw our faces up on that screen. And of course, the NYC pin, which this is the one train, man. The one train, I would have been here at 5:30 if things worked out. But I have some. If you haven't bought any yet and you want some, I have them with me. All right. And Sarah, I got your book. All right, there you go. All right. Anyway, the point is, Friday I am having a meeting with. It's in my notes, but it's I forget what her position is because it's in my notes. But with Borough President, Manhattan Borough President's office, the only borough that responded was them. Gail Brewer has not responded. I sent twice a message to her and to her press representative. Still nothing. But I wish I had my notes. Damn it. This is why I should not volunteer to film anything. All right, so
starting here.
yes. What is it? So tell me, because give me my lines, because I don't remember. This is like a dream I had when I was a kid. That I ended up drumming for the Partridge Family, but I couldn't remember the words. So, that was like this nightmare I had over and over again as a child. So like not knowing how to play the drums and having lied about playing the drums. So they replaced the drummer midway through. Also, I do want to thank people that have responded, like Jared Goldstein, and for some reason your email came up as malicious. I'm not sure why. Yeah, like you should want to open this, danger warning. Bill Robinson, I don't know if that's a reflection on you. Stanley O'Connor also, he was here, I can thank him too, and everybody else who sent me an email saying they would like to participate. I don't remember what we're looking for at this point.
I was looking for the new.
It all started here. This starts, our statement. It all started here. Join. Oh God damn it! I wrote it myself, but I can't remember. And this bird is going to just drive me nuts.
Your NYC email or your personal email?
It was on both. I sent it both. I sent it out as to all of you, to the board. Wish you like better kind of thing. But I will send it again. So if you just read your emails from NYC 400, you'll have our mission statement there. If you did write it out, it is part of the thing. Our show now. Speaking of show, I don't have. Oh, here it is. Where is it? Oh, thank God. NYC.
400 years of first.
400 years of first. It all started here. There you go. NYC.
And the sun's coming out.
Yes.
Got a nice halo.
Behold its glory. All right. I think I've used my 5 minutes. And if you think this was hard to get to, wait till you try to get to New Year's. All right. So anyway, so there you go.
Oh, questions.
Any questions?
AJ.
Yes, AJ.
You were a redhead?
Partridge Family.
Yeah.
The drummer was a redhead. That's rhetorical. I think it was a redhead.
I never saw the show. All I knew was they were redheads.
Never a redhead. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, but there you go. I think
I get it.
But the original drummer was actually disliked because he bit David Casby.
Yeah.
That was the final.
Yeah.
German.
I wasn't shooting that to stall for time. It's really not. I thought because his family moved to Florida. All right. Anyway, I met him once. Oh, you have a real question. All right, there you go.
I wasn't standing just for that.
All right.
You said you're offering tours, you're
Yes.
arranging tours for
Yes.
people to do. Is there a list of tours that are already done
No.
so we can look at what
There's not a list yet because there's nothing that really overlaps. And this is the thing about those tours. They need to be. They should be short. You don't want to. You're doing it for free, right? It's like 2 hours, right? June 22nd is the date that we're looking at, and because 21st I'm with a group in either some godforsaken city like DC or Philadelphia.
not New York, that's the thing, all right? The point is that 22nd, Monday, the longest day in the year. It's a Sunday, so that makes it better. And these are for New Yorkers, so that's the idea, all right? There was a time when I used to do a tour for the city called History of Rock and Roll, and started in Greenwich Village and ended up in front of CBGB's. So there's things like that. That was always city people on those tours. So I don't know which program, why it doesn't happen anymore. Maybe there was too much diversity and equity and inclusion in it, so maybe that's why it got cut. Is that too soon to make a joke like that? All right, but the point is that this is all going to be listed on the borough president's in his newsletters, and hopefully with your names attached to it. So yeah, yes, Emma.
So to promote it, so the borough president's gonna have it on their
Yes.
website, on their website?
Yes.
And then we will cross-promote it?
We will cross-promote it
Okay, so
on
just make sure you send it
our.
all to me. and
Yeah, okay.
get that.
Once I see what happens at this meeting on Friday morning with this woman, whose name is in my phone, but I will iron out a thing. Also limits, this is one very important thing I forgot to put in your email. Limits on number of people you are comfortable with on a tour. So some people may be only comfortable with 10, some may be 15, whatever you want, because this is your GANYC's offering to the world, right? There you go.
At your meeting, could you ask who is going to be in charge of registration?
That's the other thing we have to iron out. Who's doing registration? Is it them? Because it had been the city before doing it, so.
But it's all in one day, June.
All in one day. Oh, the other thing is the 24-hour tour that I told you guys once a few meetings ago that I had this idea once, that I thought it was a stupid idea. I am going to do it because it is a stupid idea. So I'm going to do it at some point after the 22nd of June. I'm going to do a 24-hour tour, starting at the top of the Bronx, making my way through all 5 boroughs.
Whoa.
I know, I'm gonna stretch a lot first, but I am gonna do it because it's publicity, because, we have people who have New York One connections, New York One, the stupid idiot tour guide is gonna do this, there you go, look at this idiot. So, there you go, I'm gonna do it, all right, and I think that's all. Thank you very much, thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
David Gardner for the newsletter committee. Thank you.
That would be me. Good evening, everybody. How you doing? Yes, so that's our friend the sun. As you know, it always sits in the west, so anything you see will be here in 15 minutes, so yes. Well, anyway, we would like to announce that tonight is the unveiling of the spring edition of the 2025 Guidelines newsletter. So I don't have a copy because they're all in space, they're up in cyberspace, but I've had Mark Landman and he says he's going to be uploading it. Right now, I don't know if he's somewhere between sick or dead or anything like that, but I asked him to press the button, so it should be up there at least sometime tonight. So, you go to GANYC website, you sign in, you go to documents, and then you look for anything that says Guidelines Spring 2025. I see Emma's on the phone, so I expect she's going to find out for sure. But Mark is going to... Okay, great, so we're live. And we're up, so whenever you get a chance here or tonight, when you're back on your comms, so that's it, that's everything. And you've heard the same thing before, but just since I have the floor, if you want to get yourself in a review, the most prudent way to do it is before you start the tour. And if you see somebody, you delegate them, you ask them, they say, hey Susie, hey Larry, hey Joey, whatever. And if you get somebody beforehand, that's twice your chances of getting a review written up, because if you hit them out before and afterwards, well, you may or may not. But anyway, that's it for the spring, so look for yourselves, look for everybody else, and it's up and live.
Any questions for David?
Yeah. Well, the question not asked is about the deadline. Sometimes I get one, sometimes I don't. I think I'm just going to abolish it. So for Pete's sake, if you have something, just send it in.
All right.
Newsletter at GANYC.org.
All right, I look forward to reading the new one. Thank you. Okay, who's next? Education committee. I see that Nina's not.
Nina's not here.
Is someone here going to read it for me?
I don't have it.
I can read it.
You can
I have it in your hand if you want to read it.
Alright, now Lions, for the third time, come on down!
Alright. Nina does a much better job of acknowledging everybody. I'm going to do my best while also being conscious of time. 51st year and New York City's 400th anniversary, we are developing programming in conjunction with GANYC's ad hoc committee to celebrate 400 years of Dutch New York. Fam tours have been a part of our organization since its founding. We thank all of our members, both emeritus and current, for all of the work that they have been doing. They welcome your suggestions and participation. This is direct from Nina. There's a fam tour inside each and every one of us. And while I did say that sarcastically, I do believe it's true. Thank you to Lisa Puccio for suggesting and arranging tonight's guest speaker, Roger McCormack, Director of Education at the Bronx County Historical Society. And thank all of you for your suggestions on guest speakers. We are applying your suggestions to the remainder of 2025 and 2026. They try to match speakers with venues whenever they can. And thank you to GANYC members for these past months of GANYC events. Here's where I'm going to put it to the committee, to the assembled crowd. What kind of time we got to listen to all of these? They are fantastic. You should go look at them on the website. But I'm just going to rattle off the names of the people who gave those tours for now. You will be able to see all of them online. So Beth Goff, Bob Gelber, Emma Guest-Gonzalez, Yue Wang, Debbie Wells, Bob Gelber again, John Semlak, and Ann McDermott all gave fantastic FAMs or organized them for us. Thank you all so much for everything that you did in the past month. For those who are looking for upcoming FAMs, we have one on May 9th of Jackson Heights, quote, "It's cooler in Queens." Thank you, Steve, for getting that on its feet. I'm very upset that I'm not going to be able to make it. On May 19th, Clinton Hill, Brooklyn's Gold Coast, Jeremy Wilcox will be presenting that. We have a Billion Oysters Project FAM organized by Bob Gelber for May 22nd. May 23rd, we have 2 different site visits to visit our industry partner, Dr. Silkman's. On May 30th, there's going to be a FAM at the Perlman Performing Arts Center, and on June 3rd, there's going to be a science and history FAM called Garbage and Rats in New York City, led by Suzanne Reisman. Now, I have looked online, all of these things are on the wait list, but the wait list sometimes does get used, so don't let that deter you. If you missed this month's How to Turn Your Tour Idea into a Tour on Viator with Ann McDermott, you can view it on GANYC's virtual library of past FAMs, PDPs, and guest speakers. Cancellations for FAMs, this is a reminder, must be made at least 48 hours before a FAM is due to start, or a penalty will be incurred. There's an instructional video online for anyone who's confused about how to cancel those FAMs. And for anyone who wants to join this merry band of the Educational Committee, the Education Committee usually meets the third Wednesday of every month on Zoom at 6 p.m. and their next meeting is May 21st. That will appear on Wild Apricot if anyone needs a reminder. Once again, I would ask for questions. I have no answers. Please email education@ganyc.org in order to ask questions of the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, our next speaker, Industry Relations Committee, Harvey Davidson.
I'm here replacing Bob because Bob's on a busman's holiday in England right now on a tour. He's passed this down to me. During the past few weeks, the committee has organized several visits that have already been taking place, and numerous events that will take place in the next few weeks. He thanks the Education Chair, Nina Mende, for reporting those visits in our monthly report this evening. I'd also like to acknowledge the continuing support of the Education Committee, including Lisa Puccio, who has gotten us numerous wonderful monthly guest speakers, including tonight in the past several months. Our members will be receiving online ballots to vote for Firemen's Hospitality and Guardian Group as industry partners. You should see these emails on May 10 and May 11. GANYC also wants to acknowledge and congratulate member Monia Bonaldo as this year's Women in Tourism honoree for the tour guide category. We also need to thank CEO David Miller of City Guide, a Davil media company which sponsors Women in Tourism each year, for contacting us directly, letting us know that Monia is being honored this year and offering to share the cost of an ad so GANYC could support her recognition. David Miller has been extremely supportive and generous to GANYC in the past, and we want to recognize that. Our June membership meeting will take place at the Brooklyn Heights Library, probably begin earlier than the normal time of 6 p.m. due to the fact that our meeting must end by 7:30 since the library closes at 8 p.m. Please be aware that the June meeting will be held on the first Thursday, June 5th, and not on the first Wednesday. Bob looks forward to seeing you all there at the meeting. Any questions?
Any questions for Harvey
Thank you.
or Bob? Thank you, Harvey. Okay, and last but not least, our Government Relations Committee Chair, Patrick Casey. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Yes, you can applaud. Suddenly you get quiet. Not the guys I know. So GANYC went to Washington April 1st and 2nd. Once again, we participated in Destination Capitol Hill. Those new to business, new to GANYC. Once a year, U.S. Travel Association, the primary lobbying organization for the travel industry, organizes a flyer where we speak with senators and representatives, and we pitch to those elected representatives what this industry needs. Some of these things carry over from year to year because that is government, that's what happens. And some things are new. This year, big event still. Visa processing wait times. There are certain countries that if you apply for a visa today, you may or may not get that visa in 2 years. Primarily, this has to do with State Department funding. Yes, we can wag our fingers at the Trump administration. It started back before the first Trump administration. This is an aspect of tourism that has been grossly underfunded by the federal government. We continue to go after them year after year after year. Here's the thing. It's paid for already. They can update all of the existing technology. They can expand the access to online and in-person meetings with the fees that are collected by processing visas that are going through. There's a multi-million-dollar surplus right now. What we always fight for every year we do this is A, that money doesn't go anywhere but visa processing, and we want it spent on visa processing. Big thing in the travel, in the news right now, of course, is air safety and expanding the FAA, updating the technology involved there. DOGE has gotten involved in a lot of that, and it's gotten muddy. We take DOGE out of it, before he got involved in it, $600 million is the base figure to adequately supply the FAA with everything it needs to be functional and safe. Additionally, now this was something I participated in back a year or two, 2 years ago. We got the Biden administration to recognize and create an undersecretary of travel within the Commerce Department. We're the only G20 nation that doesn't have a national government representative to the travel industry. Well, we have a position. We don't have an appointee. Biden never appointed one. Trump has not appointed one. So we're trying to get that done, and it's less than $2 million just to get the office up and running. This is chump change. Again, we're advocating for that to get done, and the expansion of the H-2B visas. For those who don't know the lingo, the H-2B visas, those are the non-agricultural temporary worker visas. They were capped at $66,000 per year years ago. You could triple that, and you still wouldn't have enough. One of the focuses this year is an incredible array of events that are going to be happening over the next 2.5 years. The United States will be celebrating its 250th anniversary. There is a huge amount of international interest. New York City is celebrating its 400th anniversary. The Olympics will be in Los Angeles in 2028. And the World Cup is going to be playing its finals here in the United States and over 80 matches throughout the country. Conservative estimates, if the federal government gets its act together and fulfills our lovely wish list here, and it all goes smoothly, this is a $100 billion event for the United States. $100 billion coming into this country and the generation of financial activity in communities all over the country. So that's what we spend 2 days pitching. Now, a nice little thing happened with this one. I often work with people from different parts of the state of New York. When we met with our senators, Gillibrand and Schumer, of course it's folks from all over the state. The thing that the senator's offices immediately harped on had to do with the loss of Canadian business. At that point, we were just dealing with the 51st state nonsense. Sidebar, the tariffs were not announced until 4 o'clock the following day, so we dumped that nonsense. Yeah, that would have been a mess. But both the senator's office wanted to know about how that was already affecting tourism, if we knew how it was affecting tourism. And because of your postings on Facebook, dear members, I had some lovely stories I could drop to the senators. The companies that are in trouble, the companies that have already begun to experience the shortfalls, you all that have lost bookings, those that are in danger of just going out of business. I had that. It was fabulous. In fact, only I and a representative from Oneida, because of its proximity to the Canadian borders, already lost a lot of trade industry. And personal background with the North Country and the Adirondacks, I could contribute some of that. But thanks to you, I had their attention for a big part of the senators' meetings. So thank you all for that. That's why we go to these things. U.S. Travel, as a lobbying organization, can put out all sorts of great little fourth color, isn't that pretty, and leave it on their desks. We go and meet with the senators because we put these people in office. We need to put faces on couches. We need to put faces on the solutions. So that's what we're doing there. When we got to the representative level, that always breaks down interestingly. Everybody there always seems to have their favorites. So you might be interested, or maybe not, but I'll throw it out there. Anyway, when I went to the offices for Representative Goldman, of course his office is downtown. What does he overlook? The Statue of Liberty. Of course his office is really interested in the National Parks funding, which has been stymied. That's worth $60 million in generated local revenue to communities all over the United States. And one of the really cool things I love to do every year, I always take this one because of that, telling New York City representatives, did you know that you have National Park Service property in the city of New York? Oh yeah, well we do have a couple. No, you got 13 of them. Huh? What? I break out my list and there they go. They're always very impressed by that. Doesn't say much for them, but a lot for us. Torres's office, really, they're all hot and bothered over the FAA and air traffic. He doesn't have an airport in his district, but we run with that. That's absolutely great. And once again, Jerry Nadler always signs up for one of these meetings and never shows up. But that's okay. If I get 4 out of 5 on one of these, I'm really, really happy. Now, that's all the Washington gig. As you go through this tumultuous time, always post what you're hearing and what you're seeing and what you're experiencing to Facebook. I try to monitor that for this reason, because I can turn that around and send it to U.S. Travel, and I can send it to our senators' offices, but not just me, not just government relations, because you're the ones who actually pull the lever in the voting booth. Really important that you also, dear Senator Schumer, dear Senator Gillibrand, I lost X number of tours because of the tariff or because of the 51st state. They need to hear from you, and of course, numbers matter. They do make an impression because they want to be back in office. And we make that possible. So, keep writing, keep calling, keep writing, keep calling. Put us all on the same BCC list. I'd love to hear it, I'll pass it on. Send it to them, please. Now, locally, as a lot of you know, we've been working with the city to get the New York City Administrative Code that governs sightseeing and the licensing and sightseeing for the city of New York. We're trying to drag that out 1938 and bring it to the 21st century. We submitted our list of recommended rewrites, and guess what? Department of Consumer and Worker Protection likes them all.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
God.
That was almost the easy part. Here's the hard part. Now we got to get a council member to float a bill. So here's the plan, the short-term first plan we have. Taken to the Department of Consumer Affairs Committee within New York City Council. That is chaired by Julie Menon. I know we're going into an election cycle. every seat in New York City Council is going to turn over. I can't guarantee that Menon is going to be the Department of Consumer Affairs Committee chair after the cycle. But she is now. And if you look at her activity, she's probably one of the most proactive members of City Council. She's been involved with Wall Street Rising. She's been in the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. She's an adjunct over at Columbia University. She worked with the Census 2020 project. And she was one of the shepherds of universal child care through City Council. So clearly she is someone who gets stuff done. I'm going to go with the devil I know and not wait for the devil I don't know. So I'm going to start with that, try to arrange a meeting with her, bring her recommendations to her with the tacit approval of the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. One of their own lawyers has gone over it, and they're very happy with it. Just as a show of hands, you're not committed to anything by showing your hands. Anybody in Menon's district, that's District 5, Upper East Side, Roosevelt Island, anybody in attendance? One. Okay, there's a start. There's a start. Because of course, again, two.
No.
Great.
No, not with him.
I'm sure there'll be some more. Just got a sense of I have to go through the list of our database anyway. Because of course, getting stuff done on the local level is the same as the federal level. Numbers matter. I'm reaching out to everybody to make that meeting happen. If I can get in the door, I think we can do something. Footnote to Gary, I'm so sorry, I didn't know you were trying to get in touch with Gail Brewer. I have in the past for other legislation. It can't be subtle, you have to kick down her door. And I had some numbers that we should have known and been able to help. Sorry.
And now you know.
Now I know.
No, you don't.
Maybe we'll talk some more.
It's not too late, is it?
For what? It's not too late? No, it's not too late.
Good, so we'll talk after
Why
the
would it be
meeting.
too late?
So seriously now, this is something for every committee member, every committee chair. You know, don't keep your life under a bushel. You're working under a project, connect with the other committee chairs. I know somebody who maybe can help Gary. Maybe Gary knows somebody who can help on a project that I'm working on. I would love to talk to you about the Office of the Borough President in Manhattan. That'd be great. I haven't been able to get to any of those so far. But that's another story. So let's try to really work together. I know one of the things about being a guide is we're fiercely independent. We work alone. We write our scripts. We develop our shtick. We do our ad campaigns. We do our marketing. But this is an association. We only represent 10% of all the licensed guides in this city. We want to make changes, we need more. We need to build. And we build when we do stuff that gets attention. We had a nice upkick after our anniversary celebration. We got the proclamation from the mayor, membership. Not going to take it's great. So let's really keep in mind, we're not all solo acts all the time. All right? Any questions? Yes?
What's the status of having a safety person on
We've been ghosted by TWU 100. That's one place I can't get back into. Here's the short version of that story. Dealing with Brewer had a bill to require a guide on double-deckers. She got a phantom phone call from somebody from local TWU 100, which used to represent guides on double-deckers, saying the union didn't like the bill. What? I was shocked because all the organizers I've dealt with said, we're not going to support the bill, but we're not going to stand in the way of it either. You do what you want to do with our ignorance. We have nothing to do with it. So, all of my people still maintain the same thing, that the union hasn't taken a position. I have tried to get in touch repeatedly with the number 2 over at TWU 100. I'm getting ghosted. So if anybody's got any leads there, I'm still trying to see what else I can come up with. I need somebody to clarify their position. That's where we are. If that bill doesn't happen, by the way, by the end of this legislative year, I think it times out. Anybody else? Yes?
In your discussions with Department of Consumer Affairs, did they tell you to go find a sponsor, or if they liked the proposal, would they be willing to engage with the City Council directly on that?
I asked for any guidance from them. They chose not to provide me any guidance.
Thank you.
It's okay. They like it. I'm going to run with them. That's what I can get. Anyone else? Yes.
So vendors are returning to the Brooklyn Bridge. I've been taking pictures on every tour I've been on.
Great.
I'm happy to
post them, but where can we go with that? Because they're slowly sneaking back
They're
on.
sneaking back in. Yeah, we knew this was gonna happen. They'd sweep, they'd disappear, they'd come back, and they're probably creeping back because there's also some flack off those who live in Dumbo, which is where they sort of slithered off to. The most proactive thing to do, you gotta hit them from both ends of the Brooklyn Bridge, and that's Council Member Marte on the Manhattan side. And, what is his name on the
Lincoln
list?
Wrestler.
Yes, and he's very much on this. He wants the Brooklyn Bridge clear at all times. Take the photos, take a short email to both of their offices on both sides. Wrestler and Marte.
Would you mind posting on Facebook those names and numbers?
I will happily do that, so I can sit on the Facebook page tomorrow if anybody's
Okay,
interested.
and just encourage membership to do that, because I'm not the only one on the.
No, I have. Every time I've been here, I have, and that's come up.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you put it on the NYC tour guides page as well?
Sure.
Because there are people who are not GANYC members, but they're still guides and they're still seeing all that.
Why aren't they GANYC
I know, they should be. But anyway, maybe we'll tell them, you know what, GANYC is doing this, you should join us, but if you.
Yes. All right, we'll do it. That'll be tomorrow morning, Bill.
Gary?
Carrie.
I do have something, I don't know if this is in your, what do you call it, your area, but there is a particular, and I'm sure some of you know who I'm talking about, ranger at Statue, that seems to have memorized all of our names, all right? It also he knew my LLC name, which is bizarre, so he probably has some sort of access, he probably got onto our web, our thing, right, our site, which is public, but it was embarrassing. He embarrassed me in front of, a client said to me, which way is the cafeteria? All I said, it's to the right as you walk in the door. And he said, we're on the same page, Gary, aren't we? Remember what I said, and like in front of my guests, I'm gonna curse in Wave Hill, motherfucker, all right? Sorry, I curse everywhere I go now, it turns out. But the point is that he is stepping over a line as far as I'm concerned. And is there anything that government relations can do, or is that like, I don't want to ask, like, put anything else on your plate, but is it government relations or is it another committee?
Mine would be the committee closest to dealing with something like that, and that is Goldman's office. Okay, short version of a longer story. When we started having issues with Statue of Liberty, I stood at one of these podiums and I asked you all for your horror stories, because I got an appointment with Goldman's office. I was going to bring all of our woes to Goldman's office. You know how many GANYC members responded? I can't go in with one. So I want to take a lead off Gary. If anybody is having issues on Liberty Island, write them up and send them to me, governmentrelations@GANYC.org, and be specific. If you got a name, give me the name. You got a date, weather, size of group, circumstances, was it on Liberty Island, was it on Ellis Island? Every detail you have, and we can try to rebuild this. We're never going to be fully welcome there, but I don't know. You know what? I don't know. Given the chaos that's going on right now with NBS, maybe there's an opening. Churchill said, never let a good crisis go to waste. So if you've got issues with rangers or boats, whatever, send them to me. Yeah, question?
No, I'm just wondering, what about the microphone? Every time I pass the security, you want to...
Do us a favor and stand up.
The issue with the microphone, when you have a bunch of people, you have the little ones, not giving them back. But every time I have to hide into my backpack, because every time there is some of the guy from the security before to take the ferry, that stopped me and they check on my bag, they threw everything out, and then they show me the microphone. This is not allowed, like this. I said, what I'm supposed to
And they've also confiscated people, so this is getting expensive.
Yeah, but this is ridiculous. I said, okay, you want to take it here, I take it back. No, we can't take here anything. And I had to let my group alone. I get out of the bus, and thankfully I was able to leave the microphone on the bus. And then run back, the people, but it was insane. I said, excuse me. And I said, I know I'm not going to use the microphone at the site, so
not in any way, shape, or form to minimize what you just shared, because I've been in a very similar position, not with the Statue of Fairies, but with the Empire State Building. Because part of a tour that I would give required me to give a walking tour downtown, but Empire State was part of the tour, but of course I had the squawk box with me, and that would be confiscated. They never wanted squawk boxes, flags, anything like that, and of course I'd have to leave my group and retrieve it. So, yeah, so it's often,
outside from
right.
the security on the ferry. It's not, yeah, but there isn't any indication there with no microphone.
What I would,
It
what
is on
I,
the website, it is on the website.
Right.
No.
It is there.
yeah, unfortunately, you do have to be, let's be aware of going through the rules and regulations that are posted on the website and try to act accordingly as best you can. That is not to take away from the inconvenience. Please write it up, please send it to me. I'll gather everything, and if I can use everything, I'll use everything. If I can use 90% of it, I'll use 90% of it.
Well,
Done.
I understand why they don't want it at the Empire State Building, because I asked, like, what, you know, what are you worried about? And, you know, I was just curious, and the guy said, if people see someone with a microphone, they think something's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's as
I mean, I've
simple as
heard all
that.
explanations,
At-
it's political activism,
Yeah,
it's
statue,
protest.
it's,
It's
they're
one of the
worried
reasons
about.
they don't want you to bring your flags,
Right.
banners.
Right, statue, you run the gamut of people there. I mean, I had a guy who did not recognize the flag of the city of New York.
Oh.
All right? And when I said to him, you should not be working here because you passed 30 of these in the way through the park. You should not be working here.
My
But-
dirty, sneaky trick was I took my New York water taxi flag, which I needed to, you know, sometimes get rid of 30 through Lower Manhattan. I wrapped it into a folding umbrella. They saw the umbrella, they didn't see the flag. It's a flag and yellow umbrella, okay. But we shouldn't have to sneak anything we do. I think I'm probably running out of time. One last call for questions.
We are.
Jack.
We represent 100% of the tour guides, 90% of them are freeloaders.
No, they're licensed sightseeing. We have to get them.
But we are representing them.
We are representing them, absolutely. That's all out there all the time. We are a group that is dedicated to advocacy and education. And a rising tide lifts all boats. That's our pitch to everybody. So let's get them to join the party. We need the money, we need the numbers, we need the voices. I'm out. Thank you.
So to some, whenever we have problems, we should definitely bring them to government relations. We should post our stories on Facebook so that we have a record and documentation of these things. Because Monia, you're not the first person, I've heard it many times, and it's disgraceful because most of us have 2 tours in a day and you need that equipment for later on. But even confiscating it is unacceptable. So, anybody else have any other business they want to discuss? Otherwise, would someone like to motion to adjourn this meeting? John?
Just as a Riverdale resident, I do want to say that I think I've lived in 3 boroughs, and I think the one train is normally the most reliable train in the system.
Thank you, John. Thank you for your.
Does anybody have any suggestions for getting back to Manhattan?
I'm sure it's fine now.
No,
It's
For the next 20 minutes.
I mean, you can either take Metro North or the one train.
AJ, sir?
EX7.
The EX7 will drop you the age.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Second,
Sorry to shut your camera.
Thank you.